Good evening. This is All Back to Mine, episode 12, and it is the 18th of January. It is 8 p.m. UK time, and it is 3 p.m. No, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's because we've got my very special guest today, Sean the Vinyl Villain. How you doing, Sean?
Hey guys, how's it going? Good.
Good, great to see you, and thank you for coming on the show. So this is all back to mine. We'll have a quick chat about your background in a minute, but the basic premise is that if I was in your hometown of Toronto and I was at your place, that you would say, "Hey, I've got these 7/7s I want you to hear." Sometimes a few more. Some of the guests have gone a bit extra,
I was
and
just
then
gonna say I don't think anyone has actually played seven.
Uh, I maybe just sideshow at the beginning, maybe when the show started. I need to go back and check, but yeah, it did start a little bit, but yeah, no, it's a fun show, so I'm not sort of precious about it, but yeah, so that's the equivalent. If I came to your house, you playing some music to me, and we do it on Twitch, which is cool. So let's start with you, a little background. So how and when did you first get into music? Who sort of introduced you to it? How was your DJ career? So lots of little mini questions in there, but let's start from the beginning.
Okay, so when I was like very young, I know my both of my parents were always just playing a lot of old school music in the house, like many of our parents. Um, and because they come from like Toronto is a very multicultural country, and both my parents are from the country of Guyana in South America. So
Okay.
we had like a ton of reggae, soca, calypso music playing throughout like family gatherings and stuff too. So there was that was always in the background. I had an older sister. She listened to a lot of the 90s R&B at the time. I had some older cousins that got me into hip hop music.
Nice.
And when I remember as a kid, I was kind of I was hanging around a lot of skateboarders when I was in elementary school. So we just used to listen to a lot of alternative rock in the early 90s, and we'd just tape music off the radio. I'd make mixtapes and stuff like that. Um, but I always remember going through my parents' record collection, and they didn't really have a big 12-inch collection. It was mostly made up of 45s.
Okay,
And
that's cool.
yeah, so I always found that intriguing. I remember always just kind of playing around with their stereo system and trying to figure out how to connect everything together and to make mixtapes just off of that. I can't say I was really like recording their music back then, but um, going back to it years later, you kind of appreciate that. So I'd say like around the time I was going into high school, I started gravitating towards hip hop music through one of my older cousins he used to collect like a lot of Source magazines back in the day, and he would go to New York because he has family there, and he'd always get these like random mix CDs or mixtapes that you couldn't really find up here in Toronto.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, like I really gravitated towards hip hop music at that time. Um,
And what sort of artist then? So hip hop then, and what years are we talking, and what sort of
this
artists?
would have been 98, 99, and I remember being like a huge fan of well, okay, so I was like what grade 8, I would have been like 12 years old. So I was listening to obviously like a lot of the popular stuff. Like Eminem was just coming out at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Dr. Dre was making a comeback. You had like DMX, Jay-Z was bubbling up, Redman, Method Man. But then I always remember loving DJ Premier's production, like just the
Yeah, of course.
scratches that he had on it, right? And I was always finding that intriguing. So I remember trying to do that on my parents' like Technics turntable that wasn't meant for scratching as a direct drive, but it wasn't meant for scratching. And I'd be like, why doesn't it sound like what he's doing? So um yeah, you find out years later why that's the case. But
I
when I
think, yeah, I think we all start like that. I think I used to have, I think probably about the same age when I was about 13, like a sort of a massive hi-fi thing that had a record deck on the top, a couple of twin cassettes, and then like a 5 disc CD thing. But yeah, the record deck at the top was just a bog standard basic deck. And again, I'd try and scratch on it, and it just it just doesn't work. Doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it's exactly right. So
Yeah.
um the one thing that I did found that did sound close enough to it though was like the when you're kids, like you get like children records, like the read along books of
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
whatever cartoons were popular at that time in the 80s and 90s. So I had some of those from when I was a kid, and I remember speeding them up and being like, "Oh, this sounds like a RZA beat," or like, "This sounds like I don't know who else was popular at that time. Who was any of the big digging in the crates producers or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like they were working with Big L and those guys. Um, so yeah, into high school, I was always still into kind of like underground hip hop, but uh, yeah, I remember like carrying around CDs in a backpack. Uh, I wanted to DJ when I was in grade 9, but I just didn't have the money. And there's a record store in Toronto I used to go into, and like the most I could afford were the 12-inch singles. And the owner Eugene there would have these like boxes of mixed mystery boxes of records. So you don't know what you'd get in it, right? You'd pay like $10
Okay.
for them.
Yeah, yeah. That can be fun.
And yeah,
Affordable.
there was a lot of chingy in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like just whatever was popular at the time, right? The DJs would play on the radio. But there would be some odd like acid house in there, like stuff that like
Nice.
I
Yeah.
hung on to, and then years later
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like I was more impressed with what was in there, right? At the time I don't think it would have been as popular, but um
I mean, music's interesting like that because what your 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old brain will listen to and sort of dismiss is something that you probably come back to when you're a bit older.
absolutely.
And it's very interesting. The stuff that I perhaps buy on 45 now for certain sets and certain mixes that 20 years ago I wouldn't have touched with a barge bar. I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not playing that sort of stuff. And then now I am. It's interesting how things move on.
Yeah, exactly. Like you might neglect something or overlook. Even I find even like certain songs on records that I have, you might hear it in a movie scene or something, or like who is this? And then you realize like, oh, I have this on vinyl.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you go to
yeah.
pick it up, you're like it's like finding out that it's like re-listening to that record all over again, right? You have a
Well,
totally
that's
different
that's the thing,
experience
isn't
of
it?
it.
You can only listen to so much music, can't you? And you forget. And I mean, I've got hundreds of records here and all over there, and you can only listen to one thing at a time. So you do need to go and dig in your own collection sometimes to find what's actually there, and stuff you forget about.
Abs-
There's things that you forget.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um yeah, so then just to go back into the music thing. So around like I guess I would have been in grade 11 at that time, so maybe 16 or 17. And two of my friends and I made up a hip hop group.
Nice.
And I was making beats off of Fruity Loops back then.
Ah, yes, I started on that.
Yeah, right. It was
Yeah.
such a good program. I loved it. And I would just sample the hell out of stuff. Like I loved it was around that time when like I was really into a lot of the underground stuff that was out at the time. But more like the aggressive stuff. Like I was into Jedi Mind Tricks and
Yep. Yep.
any of the Baby Grand artists that were big at that time. Cannabis I think was on there too for a bit. And Necro and Nonfiction, all those guys. So we would make these. I would find these like ridiculous like Spanish samples or something like that, and speed them up or loop them. And we just made beats. Nothing came of it. I know one guy that actually helped show me how to mix in Fruity Loops. Ended up going on to become like a massive producer. This guy, Boy Wonder.
Okay.
He works with Drake. It's like everyone in Toronto has some story of a connection to Drake here, but as much as like I even cringe at saying that. So I remember sending beats back and forth with him when he was just starting out. And I still actually have some of his original beats. Um, so obviously he went on to blow up, and I kind of I kind of stopped. I remember at one point we were like paying artists to be on our track. So we had, I don't know if you know the rapper Pumpkinhead, who died like a few
Mm,
years back.
no, I
He
don't think so.
he was on one. We had Guilty Simpson on one,
Okay, yeah,
and Craig G of the Juice Crew is on one of the beats that I did.
nice.
But that was it. Like, you say those names to anyone today, they'd be like, "Who?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And even more so, like I'm just telling you, and you're hip hop, and you're still kind of like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, yeah. No, Gilbert
So
Simpson, I know. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Craig G.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Guilty
yeah,
Simpson, yeah. But I mean, we
yeah,
were like paying them to be on these tracks, so it was kind of like, it's not really something to brag about. But so it got to the point where I just kind of like I wanted to move on, and I started. I still hang out with those guys, but I started hanging out with a different crew of people. I kind of shifted away from hip hop and started to listen to more like rock music. I started hanging out with a lot of rockers, and um, I was still collecting records though, but instead of using them to make beats with, I was just like listening to them and collecting them. And I think that's where the collecting process started for me.
yeah,
Um, as far as DJing goes, I DJ'd like small wedding gigs and Christmas work parties. Nothing big, and some house parties and stuff. And then it wasn't until I moved to Toronto that I actually wanted to start DJing at some bars. There was 3 bars here that I was DJing at just before the pandemic, and I was using a controller at the time, and I was seeing, like, I know you know DJ Nico.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I had just started following her on Instagram, and then I saw that they were just DJing with vinyl, so I was like, maybe I could do this. So I got rid of my controller. I sold the controller that I had and picked up a couple um, Audio Technica turntables, which I thought would have been on par with Technics 1200s, and not at all. Like the torque power on
yeah,
these things is so weak. Like you can't
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
can't mix hip hop on these turntables. But um, the good thing is you can still mix just if you're just doing basic 45 mixes or anything like
yeah,
that. So I started DJing online with that in the past throughout the pandemic. Um, and met a lot of the other DJs, a part of the group that they're in, with the Toronto Soul Club.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Cool,
met people
nice
like
one.
you too, and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. We'll come back to sort of online communities and stuff in a minute, but yeah, no, that's really interesting. We'll pick up on a few little threads on that as well. But let's get some music going. What's the first 7 you've chosen, and what is it? Why did you choose it?
so going back to my childhood, I picked up this record. This was something that I had when I was very young.
Ah, nice.
It's one
Yeah.
of these speak and spells, and you could see that I tried to write my name in it. It's brutal. I just barely see it. Not very legible, but I had always had this record since a kid, and I liked reading it and everything. But I'm not gonna play the whole thing for you here because it's a full-on story. The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. But
Yeah.
I'll play a snippet
Yeah,
from
just
it.
pay like about a minute and a half, something like that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Okay, cool. Let me. I just gotta switch over here.
I got a chocolate bar. I got a quarter. I got 5 pieces of candy. What did you get, Charlie Brown? I got a rock.
Another record. I just wanted to play that one clip from it because since sampled that, I'm trying to remember who did that. If it was like RT, or, I can't remember who. Someone had sampled that
Yeah.
clip and something. I
Yeah,
figured
yeah,
you
yeah,
might know.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think who
I
it is.
can't
I
remember.
don't know if it was
Yeah,
RJD2 or
I think
someone
it might have
someone
been.
similar.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
But
yeah,
yeah,
that
can you
was
hold up the cover again? Let's have another look at the cover.
yeah. So it's. I'm just gonna put the. Should have had like a microphone stand here, but so it's there. You go. Great try. And it's got the book. It's one
Yeah.
of those books that you read along with, and when you hear the chime, you turn the page. And
They're really cool. Yeah, yeah. I think I've got
yeah,
a couple from charity shops and stuff that I picked up over the summer.
right. What ones do you have? I'm kind of
I
curious.
can't remember. The problem is I buy stuff, and especially charity shops, and then I put it in a pile, and then it's just when it's time to sort of go through it. But it is somewhere down there. I think one of them might have been a Disney one, and then there was something else. But yeah, I need to have some time. There's not enough time in the day, unfortunately, to sort of go through all this stuff. But one day I'll go through it. Which
Does
comes back to
I
my
was going
point
to
about
ask you with that really
thinking.
quickly though. Does
Yeah.
ZZ listen to those records? Like, do you have her listen to
Um,
read along
she
books?
hasn't. She started. I got her a little Crossley mini sort of record deck, which she had downstairs, which she got for her birthday, and then she's now got it up in her room. So she's now taken her little record box up to her room, and she'll play stuff before she goes to bed, which is cool. So I'm gradually giving her a couple of tracks, a couple of 45s every sort of couple of days. So right, go and have a listen to this. But she tends to listen to mixes I've done in the car, and then go, "Oh, I like this one," or sing along to this one. And okay, fine.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
or she'll see something like for example, I like to move it. She plays a lot because obviously she's seen it in Madagascar, and there's other stuff that's comes around again. And from the late 90s, I think Wiggle It is the last one she wants to. I've just ordered, but hasn't just arrived yet. But yeah, no, that's cool. Okay, so Toronto. Tell us a little bit about. I haven't been. I'd like to go at some point to Canada. I haven't been yet. But tell us about Toronto, the music scene. You mentioned a few bars. Is there good places to go record digging there?
um, like, I don't know if I'd be the best spokesperson for this city. I love it here. I moved here maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
I was born just outside of the city in the city called Scarborough, and then I moved out to this other suburban city just out of the city here. But coming back here, yeah, we've there's always been a ton of bars that had focus on specific genres with specific DJs. We've always had a ton of concert venues. And I will say, like, even when I was living outside of the city, it was like 40 minutes out of here, so I'd still trek into here and go to the HMV and buy CDs downtown on Yonge Street. Or I used to go to Cops Records when they were at a different location. And also, I guess I went to quite a few record stores when I was in high school too. Sonic Boom is a big one here. I guess it's kind of like our version of Amoeba Records in California.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you want to go for hip hop, I would say, if you want hip hop records, I think the one that you would like the most if you came here would be Play to Record,
Okay.
because they specialize in that sort of scene. If you want original samples, I'd say Cosmos Records. They have it's two owners there, and like Pete Rock shops there whenever he comes into town.
Oh, cool.
And then there's also Rotate This, which is another great location that I talk about. Cops is the closest one to me here. There's a location that's like a 5-minute walk from where I live, so I probably spend way too much of my paychecks there. Yeah.
And I mean, is there places to dig? I mean, over here we've got obviously charity shops and boot fairs. I don't know if you have car boot sales and things like that over there.
Well, yeah, I mean, not I would say it's harder to find that stuff downtown Toronto, because the type of people that would go there would snatch them up the minute that they'd be out on the store
Yeah, yeah.
floor, right? But where I grew up, there used to be a flea market that I bought the majority of my records from. There was this one in Whitby that's gone now. And there was one guy that he had like a big shed of records that I would go into, like a storage container. And I
Nice.
would go in there. He'd every time I'd go in there, I'd come back out with like a stack of records. He's like, "How many records did you find?" I'm like, 20. He's like, 10. Okay, $30. So every time I would always keep going to him, and he would just never charge me for the full amount. So I
That
was able to
sounds
kind
good.
of build up. And you would find like the most random stuff in there. Like I would be shocked at some of the stuff that I would find in there.
That's
So,
great.
and then other than that, yeah, like we do have some thrift stores all over the place, but I don't know. Like I'll say this. Like I find in Toronto, we have this like demographic of records that you'll always find in thrift stores. Like you're gonna find poker records. You're gonna find like Canadian records like Gordon Lightfoot. Um, and then even if you do find some pricier records, you're probably just gonna find like Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin, because I call it dad rock here because they always kind of dads
Yeah,
always try to, hey, have you heard the new Zeppelin record?
that sort of
So
time. Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, I've heard them all. But
yeah, yeah.
like I traveled down to Detroit for records quite a bit because they're only about 4 hours from here. And over there is where you'll find like a ton of unique records. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you come here, I would say take the 4 hour trip down to Detroit as well,
Detroit.
because yeah, it's sketchy in some
One day,
areas, but
yeah. Once we can travel a lot more freely, it's all still a little bit up in the air at the moment.
for sure.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's keep the music rolling. What's the second one you've picked out?
All right, the second one that I chose is this is actually from my dad's collection. You can see his name
Okay.
on there, Trevor Romalo.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
it's Bill Withers, and I chose the track Harlem
Nice.
because to me it always just sounded like the intro to like a blaxploitation movie. It's like a really badass one.
Cool. Let's
So
hear it.
let me just switch the mic off real quick and change the camera. And I'll
Summer night in Harlem, man, it's a really hot. Well, it's too hot to sleep, I'm too cold to eat. I don't care if I die or not. Winter night in Harlem, oh, radiator won't get hot. Well, the mean old landlord, he don't care if I freeze to death or not. Saturday night in Harlem, everything's alright. You can really swing and shake your pretty thing. The parties are out of sight. Sunday morning here in Harlem, now everybody's all dressed up. The hip folks getting home from the party, and the good folks just got up. Crooked delegation wants a donation. Send the preacher to the Holy Land. Hey, hey, Lord, honey, don't give your money to that lying, cheating man. Saturday night in Harlem, hey, hey, everything's alright. You can really swing and shake your pretty thing. The parties are outside. Sunday morning here in Harlem, now everybody's all dressed up. The hip folks
That's so good.
It's, we lost.
That's a great 45.
Yeah, man, we lost Bill Withers just a couple of years ago, right? So I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
it was, and when I used to DJ, like I didn't have it on 45, but or I didn't even realize that I had it on 45. It was in my dad's collection, but that was one of the songs I used to play like quite a bit. I would kind of start the night off with that one because it just starts building and building and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's
stringing
they're
chords.
great tracks. I need to find out more about that Sussex label because the county that we live in is East Sussex. There's like East and West Sussex, but I don't think it's necessarily
No,
anything
I
to
don't.
do
I
with
don't think it had anything to.
yeah,
That's what I always thought actually, because I know Sussex is in the UK. I
yeah.
don't think it has anything to do with that.
No,
I
I don't
think
think so.
because I know Quincy Jones was a part of the label, but it was I can't remember. There's a documentary on the guy who owned the label, and he had a falling out with Bill Withers like in the late '70s. But um, yeah, it's such an amazing record. I think. Anyways.
Big up to Benny Goggs. He
Oh
said he did
yeah,
an
thanks,
interview.
man.
I think that's the well, we'll talk about that now actually.
Yeah.
So digging in the crates is a show that you put together on YouTube, and obviously you invited me and Zizi to sort of do that. So how did that idea come about? How long have you been doing it, and who have you had on there so far?
So it actually really only started taking off like maybe last year. I started out with just an Instagram page where I was just showcasing records in the collection. And then I thought, I'd like to try to make like short videos that explain these records. And I tried to, at the time, I think Instagram only allowed up to a minute worth. So I would just like do like a speed explanation on the first one I did was on Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions. So I just
Okay,
tried
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
like tell a little bit about that. And then I did one on when they eventually opened up the length time. I did one on Joe Meek, the
Yeah.
producer. And funny enough, I was asked to take out some of the pictures by one of the guys who actually photographed them. He was like,
Okay, you got caught
he's
by the
like,
copyright police.
he was like, I was at that party with Joe Meek. He's like, I love this is a great video, but I didn't give you permission to use it. I'm like, okay, sorry, man. I'm like, I'm
Yeah, no,
impressed to
fair
meet you,
enough.
man. And then I did one on the Wrecking Crew, because there's like a huge story in that alone. So many legendary artists came out of those sessions. And the last one I did one on Paul's Boutique as well. And
Classic.
then yeah, exactly. And then I did one on Moondog. And the funny thing is, I had this all on a totally different YouTube page. That one somehow got like 53,000 hits or views,
Wow.
and it's only because it had the slug Moondog in it. People were looking up the movie with Matthew
Okay.
McConaughey, and everyone like I wasn't even paying attention to that YouTube page because then I eventually created a new one, and one of my friends showed me it. He's like, "Do you know you have like 53K views on this?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "It's not like I can even monetize off it anyways." But I'm like, I was impressed with that one. But then
Yeah, yeah.
so then I wanted to change it up when the pandemic started, and I wanted to actually just talk about different records that I have in my collection in person, and not really like step away from the whole dialogue part of it, and just freestyle talk about it. I guess you can, if you can say that. So I started out doing it on my own, and then eventually I wanted to start bringing guests on episodes.
Yeah.
Um, and the first one that I did was of Christmas 2020, and I had just different people that I knew that collected records, and DJ Nico was one of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
Big up DJ Nico.
yeah, and then she ended up doing. They were doing a show on Valentine's Day, and I ended up having like it was like an all girls episode, except for myself. Like I probably shouldn't have even been in the episode because I'm like the only dude in it. So I did that, and then through that, I kind of met a lot of the other female DJs that I kind of chat with all the time here now through online, and we all watch each other's mixes and stuff like that. DJ Babs, DJ
Yeah.
Blush. Shout out to DJ Blush. Nico, DJ Misty. There's like a whole ton of them, really. So
It seems to be a very tight knit and close community over there.
that
Which is
was
great.
that was what I thought was so cool about it, because when I was DJing here, I didn't know anyone, and I thought like I was meeting like random people coming into these bars that I was DJing at, and they just seemed like assholes. Like they were this one DJ came in and was like, "What do you use? What's your gear?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not trying to like overshadow your music. I'm just doing this for fun."
Just playing some music, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, I was shocked when I met that whole Toronto Soul crew, and I met there's other members in there too, and they're so like welcoming, and they're all about the music. They're all about supporting each other, and it's kind of like your crew almost too. Like I find like the work that you guys do, and
Yeah.
I just want to say like I'm so impressed that that you really advocate too for mental health in the music scene too, because I think that's huge. And also what you do with the kids too, because they're the
Thanks.
future, right? And I think I'm so impressed that was why I asked you to be on it, because I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like you don't see that too often.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been a strange couple of years because obviously, I mean, for me, I got involved with the 45 Kings, and then obviously I came up with a 45-day idea, and then it's only through the community and chatting to other DJs, and in particular, Double P, who started talking to me about his mental health and how he was struggling and how he got into DJing, and then I was like, you know what? I'd watch Wednesdays on Wax, which is the Dusty Donuts show, and I was like, we can do something like this. And then it just sort of started from there, and then more people came out and said, "Oh, this is really good," And then I said, "Okay, do you want to talk about this?" And then obviously when I had Babs and Nico and Derek on the show, and everyone's just been amazingly open and honest about their experiences, and it's been yeah, I think that show, part of my journey, is probably the proudest thing I've done, in terms of getting people to talk about their issues. And then the 45 Kids was just Zizi's idea. I thought, okay, she said, why don't the kids play? And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then it's sort of snowballed and snowballed. And I don't know if Benny's still in the chat, but Indie Mix is, I think, the latest 45 Kids to sort of get involved. And yeah, no, it's been great. It's great seeing them and building that sort of a relationship with my daughter through music, which I absolutely love and is my passion, and hopefully instilling that in her, and she seems to love it as well, which is great.
That's what I'm saying though. Like I just think it's so cool that you um like influence and support her doing that too, Like I think like I didn't have anything like that when I was a kid. So I just that's why I'm like asking about like did she listen to your records or your collection? I'm like I always just wonder if like the kids are actually interested in it in this day and age, or
Well,
digital, but clearly they
it's
are, right?
interesting. Yeah, because she like I said, I can't remember if it's before we started or not, but yeah, so she'll listen to my mixes, and then so for example, I did we did 7 Deadly Sevens show for 7th of July
Mhm.
last year for Sideshow Mall. And there's My Boy Lollipop by Millie, which is the second track, and then Gangsters. I did like a decade thing, like 60s, 70s, 80s. And then we get in the car and it's like, right, CD1, fast forward to My Boy Lollipop, and then she'll just listen to that and repeat, and then Gangsters. So she knows all the words now as well, so she can sing it along. But yeah, she'll just be listening to music, and then now I will say to her, right, you've got a set coming up. Come and sit down, and I'll play you a load of stuff, and then pick out what you like. And then she sort of flicks through it and does it. But yeah, I mean, at some point she'll probably just walk off with a whole box, and then I'll never see those records again. But and then we also went we did a little bit of digging. She picked out a track which we'll play probably in the next one. But yes, I mean, and I see like Indie Mix, goes record shop digging, and Benny puts up some images and photos of them and their local shop, and Chrome put up. He's got two daughters, Evie Wonder, who's been on the 45 Kids, and then his younger daughter. And again, they went digging last week. So it's amazing just to say, right, I've gone out daddy daughter day. They've gone out digging, and I mean, it's not just me doing it, but it's amazing to see doing that. And yeah, so Indy's picking out stuff for ZZ's birthday set. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, so that should be fun.
Awesome.
And the good and the good thing is that, you know, Benny only lives. I haven't met him in person. He's done a couple of sets for us, but he only lives in Worthing, which is about an hour's drive away. So at some point this year, we're going to go, and then the kids are going to get to meet up. And ZZ got to meet up with Evie Wonder when we went to Norwich, and they hung out, and it was great. You know, they don't know each other other than they've been on the 45 Kids talk show together, but
I would say like that was the one saving grace of this whole pandemic, right? Was learning how to do everything online. As far as DJing and meeting all these different communities that way. I've met like a ton of really cool people just through that alone, and I'm sure you have too.
It's and I think we've talked about it before. You know, pretty much everyone. I'd say 99% of everyone I've met. No ego. You know, just about the music, just about community, just about sharing, and it's been amazing. You know, it's been amazing. I think we're only on number 3, so we can carry on talking, but yeah, let's have some more music. Let's have another one.
Okay, so
Benny, yes, we definitely will put a date in the diary soon. I'll be in touch next week or something. We'll sort something out.
So the next record, like I was telling you earlier, how growing up, my parents played a lot of like reggae and calypso from back home in Guyana, and one of the artists that they always used to play, and they used to go to a lot of his shows whenever we'd come to Carabana in Toronto, was this artist Byron Lee. But yes, a lot of people, I didn't even realize that he started out as a ska artist, because I'll show you what the Byron Lee that I grew up knowing. Let me just show you really quickly. Okay. Hang on.
I'm gonna have a look and see if it's the same Byron Lee, because I've got one that I played on my birthday set.
Okay.
So proper digging now.
It's raunchy, but this is like the Byron Lee that I grew up listening to. Here, I got this sleeve right here.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that sleeve.
So we have all these soca albums on CD at my parents' house, and that was the stuff that we grew up listening to. But yeah, years later, when I was in high school, I found out that he did like ska music really early on. I was obsessed with this one particular song that I'm going to play for you here. It's Frankenstein. I think I don't know if you can see it. This is actually, okay. So this is, sorry, I'm struggling here trying to figure out.
I think we can just see Byron Lee. I can see that at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, this was a hard one to find. There were 2 copies that I found on Discogs, and one was in the UK, and the guy I think ended up telling me that he already sold it, or the shipping was too much. This copy that I have here, I think, is a repress from Japan.
Okay.
So I don't know if that holds any any difference, but
well, Japan pressings seem to be better quality usually.
Yeah, well, I hope so, but so yeah, I'll play this record here, and show you that. Let me just switch over.
Rewind. That's a great track. I love my scar, and like you said, that sort of calypso feel to it as well.
I knew
Um,
you were into that,
it's
so I wanted
yeah.
to throw that one in there. And like the horn section sounds like something that like Ennio Morricone would play in like a spaghetti western from the '60s.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Vibe to it.
Just say big up to Andy Smith in the chat and DJ Blush as well.
What
Um,
up?
yeah, I played so Byron Lee. There's a cover. I love covers, obviously. As a 45s DJ, "Live and Let Die" cover.
Oh, that's a dirty one. I love that
It
one.
is. It
Yeah,
starts off and you think, oh yeah, it's very similar to the original, and then it just drops, and you're like, yeah, this is
yeah.
brilliant. Um, but um, but yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, so your parents used to play quite a lot of calypso. So is there any other artists we should sort of look out for from that sort of era that you're into?
I'm trying to remember who else. They played like a lot of this Trinidadian artist Sparrow. Um,
Okay.
trying to think of who else they used to play back then. The thing too is like my mom was born in the '50s, and she was like a diehard like girl group um
Okay.
listener. So she listened to like a lot of the stuff like the Angels, the Ronettes. Like we just lost Ronnie Spector, and like that was a tragedy too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that sort of doo wop stuff. And my dad was kind of like, I don't know, he was a little bit younger, and he was, I remember him having a lot of disco records, which I thought was uncool when I was a kid, but now I'm glad that he has that stuff. He liked, like a lot of reggae too. Um, and a lot of yacht rock, like a lot of soft like '70s rock.
It
And then
seems to be very popular these days. Yacht rock.
yeah, it made a huge comeback. Like I remember like
Yeah.
we'd shop at, grocery stores back in the '90s, and that stuff would just, that stuff's like it's embedded in my memory is like shopping at Woolco or Kmart with my mom, like
Yeah.
hearing yacht rock on the music.
But that's what music does, isn't it? It's music just embeds those memories, and it just brings back and can take you back to a time. And again, I think we talked about this on one of the other shows, like dementia patients, or people with Parkinson's. Listen to music, and then it takes them back to wherever they were.
Yep.
And yeah, Andy Smith says his mum likes Cliff Richard. I'm on that point. So get your next record ready, and I'm going to dig out a Cliff Richard track.
Okay. Let me what did I have next? Okay.
I'm not going to play it because I've got a little issue with this. But Andy, I don't know if your mum's got this one, which is the Cliff Richard Two Hearts, which is a 7-inch.
That's amazing.
Shaped like two hearts,
or like a booty, like or like Big Bird's foot almost.
Yeah,
Kind of looks like the Wu-Tang emblem. It could be a lot of things, right?
That was a random a purchase in a charity shop somewhere. I saw it and I was like, yeah, 50p. I'm probably not going to play it, but it looks cool.
I'm trying to find that "What You Won't Do for Love" heart-shaped record. Like that's amazing. I love that song. And who is I don't remember her name. There was a DJ.
P?
Yes,
DJ
she's
P, yeah.
amazing. I love her
Oh yeah,
set.
she's
And
amazing.
I remember her showing that record. And I was like, oh my god, I didn't know they had it on a heart-shaped record. I would love to own that on vinyl.
Andy Smith is saying that his mum was his gran liked Sarah Vaughan, but she was strictly cassettes. So yeah,
cool.
back in the day, cassettes. Yeah, we're waiting for someone to come on Twitch and do a cassette set. I haven't seen it yet.
I want to see like a reel to reel like set.
Well, there's a guy in Russia. I think I can't. I might be like Mr. Cassette or something like that. But he would just take lots of little bits of cassette tape, and he'd have like this sort of stripped back 2-deck cassette thing, and he'd basically loop little bits, and it's just bonkers.
That's
bonkers,
impressive. That's so impressive.
And then Benny's saying you have to dig through a lot of cliff before you find the disc. Cool. So I think we're on number 4. So what have you got?
This is, I guess this would be considered calypso. This isn't an artist that like my parents listen to in any way, but it's this artist Lancelot Lane. I bought a compilation of his, and it came with this 45 as a bonus.
Nice.
It's just such it's very like Afrocentric. It's funky as F, and it's got I don't know if you could swear on the show, but you can it's funky as fuck, and you can it's got like a calypso vibe to it as well. I know he was like a Trinidadian artist, and just reading the insert that came with that record, he was very revolutionary too. So if you look up Lancelot Lane, you'll find his stuff, and this is the song titled Funky Calypso. So I guess it is calypso. It's funky calypso. So let me just switch off again here.
Well, I like funk and I like calypso, so there's a good chance I'm going to like this.
I think you're going to like this one.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on a sec.
And Andy Smith's telling us, there was a Russian guy in the DMCs in the 80s on reel to reels.
Funky calypso, give me a funky calypso, give me a funky calypso, give me a funky calypso. Gonna get funky tonight. Give me a funky calypso. 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 Turn me on, turn me on. Turn me on, turn me on. Turn me on, turn me on. Turn me on, turn me on.
One a little bit short there, because I know you don't have a whole lot of time here, obviously. So
that does exactly what it says on the tin, doesn't it? That is funky and it's calypso. That's a dope track.
Right?
Dope track. DJ Blush says that's rad.
Shout out to DJ Blush.
Yeah. That is a
yeah, no, it's so funky.
Amazing track.
And if you look up his stuff, even on Spotify, just to like test it out, that's how I got onto his music. And there's a ton of stuff. The compilation I got has even better tracks on it. But that 45, that's a big one. So
you mentioned Sparrow, didn't you?
Yep. He was kind of like a comedic artist, and I think that's why my dad liked him, because my dad was big into like he had a lot of the comedy records from the 70s too, like George Carlin and
Yeah,
Cheech and
I'm
Chong.
assuming it's the same guy, Mighty Sparrow. That's the same guy. Is it the
Yep,
same guy?
the Mighty
Yeah,
Sparrow.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I've got Under My Skin on 7, which I love, which is a great
Oh
cover.
yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
I play that quite a lot. I don't think I've even ever played the B side. I'm a bit guilty of that. Sort of, you end up playing the A side, and then you suddenly forget, and then when you play a B side, you're like, wow, why haven't I not listened to this B side before?
Absolutely. That's like my favorite part of record collecting is
Yeah.
like just neglecting something for years and then going back to play it and then finding out it's just as good, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hip hop sevens will have the original, and then they'll have an instrumental or a remix, and obviously reggae. I love reggae music, and I love the versions, and I love the B sides, and one of the shows I sort of do and host is 45 Dubs, which I just love because they're so dirty. Some of these B sides and some of these versions.
Let me tell you something too. So the owner at the owner of the store Cops Records that I was talking about that I shop at, his name's Martin, and this guy has been in like the record selling industry since the 50s because he's from England. I think he's from the Merseyside. If I'm not,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't even know if
really
I'm pronouncing that right. In Liverpool, yeah.
Merseyside. Yeah, Liverpool. Yeah, River Mersey. Yeah.
And so every time I would go in there looking for certain songs, he's like, why do you want these songs? Like these are like B-sides to songs. I'm like, that's what my mom listened to though. And that's
Okay,
what my
that's
parents listened
interesting.
to. And then he said, well, where are they from? I said, Guyana. He said, oh, that's why. He said, so in Guyana, I guess back in the 60s, they wouldn't get like the main singles. And I'm sure it was the same in Jamaica and in the West Indies. Like they wouldn't get the main singles that you hear in the US. They would send them the B-sides and they would popularize those instead. And that's why whenever you hear a lot of these reggae covers, it's usually of like songs you're like, oh, they did like a cover of that song. So
Yeah. I mean, reggae. Yeah, again, reggae covers. I love reggae covers as well.
yeah.
I try and play those as much as possible. But yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So they'd send what would be on the B side in the US to other countries to try and popularize the B side.
Yeah. I don't know if there is any like full truth in that. I'm just basing it off of what he told me, but
yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. Yeah. Cool. Okay, yeah. Well, let's do number 5.
What was this Cliff Richard song? Were you gonna play the Cliff
No,
Richard?
I'm not. I can't play. Like I said to you earlier, there's some problem with my audio thing, so I'm having to get. But this is it's 2 hearts on one side, and then on the B side, yesterday, today, forever. I mean, yeah, it's just novelty. To be honest,
That's
it's
beautiful.
not something. I've said this story a few times. I bought a couple of records off Sam Tweaks, and he said, "Oh, I've put a little something extra for you in the package," and it turned out to be a Cliff Richard record, which was we're talking about Cliff Richard as Double P comes in, which was funny, but not quite as cool as this. I've shown this before, but let me show you. There's a guy called Paul Salt, Mr. Salt, who's part of the 45 Kings, and we do Reggae Fire. We do a Reggae Fire show once a month, generally in the 45 Kings, and he does a lot of painting, and he's done some painting stuff for me before. But he made this, and I bought this off him, which is a
wow,
a reggae painting, and it's got like Reggae
that's
Fire.
Incredible.
Record box, which is cool.
That probably stores so many 45s too.
But then over Christmas, I bought a couple of records off him, and he said, "Oh, I put something in specially because it's Christmas, blah blah." So I thought, okay, be another sort of £1 50p record or whatever. And then the box arrived, and I was like, "Well, that's a pretty big box." And then he'd given me this, which is a clock with a yellow 7-inch that he'd painted.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's Stellar Time.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Which is very cool. So yeah, I just need to find somewhere to hang it. Speaking
of De La Soul, it sounds like they got their rights back from Tommy Boy, so I think they'll be re-releasing a lot of their music pretty soon.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean that'll be good. Yeah. We need some more De La Soul 7s.
Absolutely.
That'll be great. But yeah, cool. Number 5. What have you got?
Number 5.
And big up Double P in the house. We were talking about you earlier, Double P, how you inspired the mental health part of my journey show.
Yeah.
And
Shout out to
DJ
Double T.
Bill, salve, salve.
Shout out to DJ Bill. I don't know you, but shout out.
He's an amazing Brazilian DJ.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
okay. I will say this. My background, like I am Guyanese, but my parents' grandparents are from Portugal. They don't
Okay.
speak Portuguese, but it's Guyana, I think, is just north of Brazil. So there's a bit of a connection with with them there.
Well, we'll just we'll pause before because obviously he's coming to that. But he taught me something which I didn't know. That in Brazil, you may know this, I don't know, but in Brazil they have 7-inch records, but they're called compactos, but they play at 33 RPM rather than 45. So that then garnered an idea in my head. I was like, right, why don't we do a show called 45s versus compactos? So we got some Brazilian DJs in. DJ Bill, DJ Tiago, we had Nat Jacka, we had DJ Yuga, and me and Sideshow all basically played 45s and they played compactos. But all the Brazilian DJs are amazing. They're all amazing. I'm so pleased that we
absolutely
link up through Twitch. It's an amazing and Bill did a 3 or 4 day raid event for his birthday last year, worldwide web. But yeah, that's cool. Anyway, let's awesome. Play number 5.
Okay, number 5 is Giorgio Moroder's.
Oh yes.
I don't know. I think this might have been off the album that Dilla sampled. I Want to Rock You. Okay. It's a really cool 80s. It was his step away from. I think this came out in the 80s. 79. Sorry. This is kind of like a step away from Donna Summer stuff. I would have said, but maybe not quite.
Yeah, because he produced a lot of that, didn't he?
Yeah. So, anyways, this is like an 80s funky kind of track here. All right, let me just switch over.
Decal.
Reminds me of like Scarface almost, like the that he would have produced on the Scarface soundtrack.
That's a great track.
It sounds MC Squared. Like I know that's not the sample that he used by Giorgio, but it's I think it might have been from the same era. I'm not too sure about that.
Benny Goggs is saying he needs to get this. He's a big disco fan. He played a
Hey,
great
man,
set.
really? Okay, I'm gonna follow you after this, Benny, because I love disco. I'm all about that sort of shit.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Follow Benny and Constance Kay as well. I think you may have
okay,
seen
cool.
the show. She was on the show, and again
Yes,
they know each other, and it's through Constance Kay that I sort of got to meet Benny, and it's all cool stuff.
sweet.
Giorgio's interesting because he's obviously had his career, and he's had a really long career. And it was interesting when Daft Punk sort of had him on their last album. And then I can't remember the name of the track, but there's the track where he's basically talking about how he started, and he'd basically drive halfway across Germany and go and play a gig and sleep in his car and then go and do the same. And then obviously it sort of goes into an amazing track that they've sort of done together. But yeah, he's inspired a lot of amazing music, and it's amazing that he's still doing so, and we're still listening to that. That's 79. I was 4.
Oh wow, yeah.
And this is another thing about 45s. It's still, it blows my mind a little bit that we're playing music that is older than us sometimes, quite a lot of the time, and anything 60s is like, a good 10-15 years older than me. But it's yeah, it's great stuff. It's great stuff.
I was gonna say even that there was an album by the Sparks that he fully produced too. That like I'm finding out more about him now that I'm kind of going into that whole disco genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These sort of genres are all a little bit of a rabbit hole, aren't they? And it's for me, obviously reggae. I like reggae. I like hip hop. I like funk, and it's going down there. But disco, I do like disco. I just don't have a lot of it, and I don't go down that rabbit hole just yet because I haven't got any space to add to the collection. And jazz is the new one that I'm sort of getting into a little bit more.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I just went on like a huge jazz rampage at the record store over Christmas. Like what kind of jazz are you talking about? Like
Well,
era?
so the 45 Kings started a show called Bright as the Sun. It's on the second Sunday of each month, and there's Fat Wax 45, Mr. Lob, Ouija, Butchie B, Mark Lancaster. And then so they said, do you want to play some jazz? And I was like, well, I don't really have much. And then I started digging. I was like, well, I do, but it's not necessarily the standard jazz. I've got a little bit of electronic jazz, a little bit of broken beat jazz, some more modern stuff.
Oh, that's all jazz, man. Like I'm not like a jazz. Yeah, I'm not like a jazz expert in any way. I'm not a musical expert. I don't play any instruments, but jazz, just like hip hop, it transcends into different things, and it's all hip hop at the end of the day. Whether I don't listen to modern hip hop as much, it's still hip hop, and I'm glad that it's growing and expanding. Right? Same thing with jazz, like whether it's fusion or
if it's good music, it doesn't matter. And that's why I like 45s as a DJ, because I've always been a bit eclectic, and I just like that you can, in a set, just play whatever you want, and you can mix it up and then go dig in and find stuff. I mean, we've got an interesting show. Andy Smith's in the chat tonight, but we do 45 Raiders, which is 45-minute sets, and the one at the end of this month is January Blues. So it's going to be either blues or melancholy songs or sad songs. I think Andy Smith is going to do a 45-minute set of all tracks that have got blue or blues in the title. So it's just fun, and this is why I like 45. It's fun to go and dig in your collection and for a particular event or a particular stream or something like that. And I don't remember having so much fun when I was doing just digital DJing, before. I think it's just a very different.
Oh man, I couldn't agree more with that statement right there. Like it's not even to like to disrespect like digital DJs or anything, but
not at all.
Just switching over to vinyl, like it's like night and day. It's you're going through your collection trying to find something that you actually own, and then sometimes you hear something that you want to have on vinyl that you could play, and you go out searching for it, and that's a part of the experience too.
It's I think for me the fun thing is when I'm searching for something and I can't find it because it's just everywhere, and then you find other stuff and you're like, oh right, like I was putting together a set for tomorrow night, and I found like a reggae track, and then I was like, oh, I'm sure I've got like an original of this, it's like a modern reggae track, and then I find the original, and then I'm like, oh brilliant, those two go really well together, and then you can play it, and it's those sort of connections going on in your head as you're digging in a record shop or at home or in a charity shop or a boot fair or whatever. That's I think what's really cool.
What are the shops like out there? Because do you
Um,
do you do a lot of digging at charity shops there? Or?
yeah, when I've got time. I mean, we've got. I live in Eastbourne, which is a small little town. Well, about 100,000 people live here. But we at one point we had about 5 record shops, and then my mate ran one of them, and that was a hip hop, funk, soul, really cool stuff, but just couldn't really make ends meet. Another one was like new stuff, and then that sort of shut down. And then there's 2 or 3, but there's a lot of charity shops in the UK, and pretty much every high street in the UK has got 5, 6, 7, 8 charity shops, and then there's just a mixture. You'll go in and you'll find the same old crap, but sometimes
What is the old crap that you guys find there? That's what I'm curious
well,
about.
like we said, like the Cliff Richard, or ABBA, or like Harry Seacombe, or like just stuff that you're just never going to play, really, Steve. And then every now and again you will come up across like some funk track or some disco track, or reggae, or if you get really lucky, you go in and someone's given in their collection, and then you're suddenly like, wow, okay. And then you start going, and they're like, oh yeah, well, it's like 3 for £1, or like 10 for 50, £5 or something like that, and you're like, right, okay, yeah, take the lot, and sort of walk out with the box. But they're a bit few and far between these days, because I think people
Now
I
tell me something then. Do you, like, as a record collector, do you find going into a record store and finding something versus going into one of those shops, it's almost like cheating if you go into a record store, or like buying off Discogs or something?
I think cheating's probably Discogs, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
I would say so.
if you want, but then Discogs has got, for me, it's got its own sort of digging, because I'll find something I want in a Discog seller, and then I'll be like, okay, let's see what else they've got in their 7-inch collection, to save on postage, and you suddenly find a whole load of stuff that you've again never heard of, or covers, or whatever it is. So it's a sort of digital digging online, but digging in the sort of same sort of way. But and then we have record fairs. I don't know if you have record fairs that come to Toronto.
Yeah, no, we do. I was gonna say that was another big thing. That was another contribution to my record collecting, was from going to record fairs when I lived outside of the city. I know there's one on my street that always happens on Broadview. But I haven't been to that one. I don't know. Like, from what some people have told me, they said like they're not the same as they used to be. But I don't know if it's just people getting older, and
it does vary. It does vary. I mean, we've got another one. Actually, this Saturday, actually, which I need to get to. Happens every sort of maybe 2 months in our town, and then there's one in Hastings, which is about, I don't know, about 20 miles down the coast, and then it happens in a place called Tunbridge Wells. And then you go in, and it just depends on the dealers. I mean, the one I went to last time, there was a guy just saying, right, basically any 45 was like £1, and you're just like, okay, digging through, and then you grab a load, and then it's cool.
That's what I will really quickly. That's what I will say. Like, going back to like the idea of traveling to different cities. To me, they tend to like center around, like, when I start to make an itinerary, I'll look at what record stores are in the city, and I'll go there, because that if you go to anywhere around, even if whenever I travel to the States, like when I was in Tucson, Arizona, the records that I found there were from, like, I would assume, like, people who retired and went to move down to Arizona because it's warmer there, right? So you're getting a lot of like obscure. I found a lot of like stuff from the 60s, like lounge kind of records.
Okay.
I don't know if they kind of just. I find like different cities have like their demographic of people who will get rid of their record collection, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when our generation or our parents' generation gets to that stage where they can no longer hold on to their collections, because a lot of the stores are going to be flooded with those records.
Well, I mean, this is why, in one sense, the whole 45 kids concept is a good one, because
they're going to inherit.
Assuming the 45 kids carry on playing, then they can have the records, and at least it's sort of handed down. And it's also, they can go through stuff, because you can't really. I think, was it Bruce Willis? Was it, he got in trouble because he tried to? Is it Bruce Willis or one of the other actors, I can't remember who it was, who tried to pass on his iTunes collection to his children or something, and they
Oh,
said, well, it doesn't technically belong to you, you know, you can't pass it down. But also, you know, they're really going to go through your hard drive listening to your digital collection. You know, the reality is
yeah,
they're not.
it's
You
not the
know,
same.
like we've gone through our my parents don't really have records, but you know, like people go through their parents' collection. I'm hoping at some point, you know, Zizi will go through, you know, when I'm not here, you know, go through my records and, you know, keep the stuff she likes and sell the stuff she doesn't like or whatever. But at least there's someone to play it rather than it just going into, you know, somewhere that's not going to do it.
You said your parents are Greek, right?
Greek Cypriot, yeah. They were born in Cyprus and they moved over in '74. So a lot of they did have records, but I didn't really listen to them because they were Greek. I just wasn't really my thing. But I remember, I think I've said it on the show before. So the room I'm in now, this house I grew up in between the ages of about 5 till about 11, and then my parents moved a couple of doors down, and then they sold it to us later. But so this room used to be my games room or whatever, my playroom when I was a kid, and I've got a vivid recollection of a record player on the floor and listening to like the Grease soundtrack, because you know that was sort of the thing then. So
Did you think that was a Greek record?
no, not that one, but that's the only one I can sort of from that time remember. Other than that, it was like you played like the Charlie Brown, like nursery stuff or something like that. But that's the only record that stands out in my mind that they had that I remember playing and listening to myself and enjoying. But other than that, yeah, I mean they've got some records at their house now, but it would just be, I don't know, it's not something I'm ever going to probably play. And
Funny enough, the neighborhood that I live in is actually the Greek neighborhood in Toronto. So there's like a ton of I don't know if we really have any. There's not really any Greek record stores there. There's just the Cops record store I was talking about. But
yeah,
I'm sure
I'm
it's
sure there is
really.
some good music. We've had Chris International on, and he talked a little bit about some Greek funk music. And I think Constance then sent me a link to a Greek funk tune, which was actually really good. I think it was a Greek cover version. But yeah, I think they're few and far between. Let's put it that way. But yeah. Let's keep the music rolling. What are we on? Number 6, I think.
Number 6. I'm gonna do what everybody does. I've picked 2 part 6s, and the only reason why I would have done 3 if I had an MF Doom 7-inch,
Okay.
but yeah, I picked the 3 hip hop producer gods, I guess, the triangle as they call them. So there's Jay Dilla and Madlib's Quasimodo. I don't, like I said, I don't have MF Doom on 45, but
just pause for a second.
Oh, I know you have these too, I'm sure.
I was going to show you a couple of my my vinyl toys as we're talking about.
Oh my god! Oh, so the record store I was saying that I think you would like the most used to carry those. They had the Jay Dilla one that came out. There was the MF Doom toy.
The Jay Dilla's in a box.
It's in your hands, yeah.
And then I've got the MF Doom one.
What did you pay for them when you got them though? Because right now they're like over $1,000.
It seemed to be expensive at the time, but the Quasimodo was in a like a clothes shop in Brighton.
Wow.
And I don't think it was that expensive. I think it was like, it seemed like a lot of the time like it was £30 or something like that, but I'm sure it's worth a lot more now. And this one is yeah, this is definitely worth more. Ooh. This isn't the one that came. I've got in a box down there, which isn't going anywhere. The version of this which comes with a 7-inch Mad Villain. I can't even remember what the track is, but it's like a special edition one. I think he's a slightly different version of that.
Right, man. I want those so badly, but like I just can't justify spending that much money.
No, exactly. And again, this I think this was maybe £60-70 when I got it. So,
yeah, when they first came out, I remember them being like not that much.
But that's the thing. So it's the same with record collecting, isn't it? You know, you sort of got to buy stuff when it comes out.
Oh
if you've got the money, if you can afford it.
Yeah, and yeah. So these 2 records, I more so just picked up for the novelty of them. It's Quasimodo printed out on a 45, and then
there's a couple of versions of that, isn't there? I think there's
flip it around. It's the inside of him,
which
I think is really cool because they actually
it's the guts, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's like I just love the humor behind Quasimodo and how it was like really just a joke in the beginning when between him and Peanut Butter Wolf. And then I didn't choose this. I'm not trying to be political about this song in particular, but I just love the beat, the flow that J Dilla gave on this track, and the record that it was printed out on. It's "Fuck the Police badge."
Yeah, so good.
Just the beat alone is dope, and his flow on it too. So I'll play both of these really quickly, just like a verse,
cool, yeah.
We'll count that as one.
Yeah, we'll count that as one. That's fine.
All right, okay, hang on a sec.
I'm gonna go find something as well quickly. Hold on.
It's the Macedon, yo, I hit you off lacy with my nigga Lord Quaz
in the place, master race MC, coming through like the loneliest monk. Mad lib, drop harmonious funk. I'll leave you sunken like a crackhead's ass. Drop the math on that ass fast, cause if we battle, your whole crew will be coming up in last place. I'll hit you with a slower, fast pace. On conceptual mode, new breed of wreck the whole space. We'll take you out, lacerate cause you was blind.
Hey Lord Quaz, did you hear the voices that you left behind?
Hey yo, are you the one?
Are you the one?
That took that nigga's life without using a gun.
That's so wild, I love the profile. Run hard, but ain't got no style.
That's such a great beat. I love Quasimodo. I mean, yeah, Madlib's just genius producer. And he's so prolific as well. That's the thing, you know, the beats that he comes out with, because constantly.
Yeah, and I was gonna say really quickly too, like the fact that I thought he would have just like kind of went under the radar, but I know like that last record that he put out went really big, and the works that he's been doing with Freddie Gibbs is like really blowing up for the
Yeah.
So
yeah, Freddie Gibbs is great. He played. I saw him in Brighton a few years ago, a really small venue. I think there was only about 100 people there, but it was you know intense, but it was great, really good.
You know, I was gonna say too. I haven't seen any of these guys live, but there was one show I was supposed to see back in 2006 in Toronto, and it was Mos Def with Doom, and Doom didn't show up. So
no,
they sent out the fake Doom, which I'm kicking myself now because I was such a big Doom fan when it was coming up. But yeah, that's my little Doom story.
Yeah, I got to see him a couple of times actually. He played at the Roundhouse and in Brighton, so I got to see him a couple of times.
Yeah, and he was living in the UK, right?
He was. Well, he was born in the UK originally, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
But and then he sort of moved back. But yeah, I haven't seen Madvillain. That's one I almost did, but I couldn't get to the show.
Oh, I know. Like, there's a venue just down the street from here too. When Stone's Throw just started coming up, they had like a tour with J Dilla, like when Dilla had put out the Rough Draft album, and then Madlib and Doom were here, Peanut Butter Wolf, like it was all like the guys that were just starting out on the label at that time. I wish I would have seen that, but I was.
Yeah, I know. Cool. Let's have a listen to some Dilla.
Yeah. All right. Here we go.
The views expressed on this recording are solely those of the artist, and by no means do we encourage or condone violence against law officials. It's for you. It's for you. Yeah, it's for all my street niggas. Feel it. On the count of three, say fuck the police. 1, 2, 3, fuck the police. Yeah, fuck them. Applauding these niggas.
Damn right, I'm
We could lose lose a few of them, we got enough of them. My niggas on the corner, they be dodging and ducking them. Bitches getting pulled over, end up fucking them. For real. And see, now we got these fake cops. They thought he had a gun. Made a mistake, cops. I hate cops. Turn on the TV. Is this another cop busted for illegal business? They out of control. They out of their minds. They pulling you over. They hopping inside. Just know you got drugs and know you got guns. And they know when they mad when they can't find none. Stupid. Don't you know they give in at the stash box? The he be in and need a key to get in it. Any offended people suck my balls. All y'all off the wall get stupid, dog. Don't hold back, don't let go. Don't say damn, just say whoa. Get it up, Mojo, hey, Mojo, baby, fill it up, hey,
That's it's a great release, especially with the sort of shape, and also it's a great track. Jim Sharp, I think, did a I think it's Jim Sharp did a re-edit recently of that.
Oh, over that beat or
The track, yeah. He did a whole re-edit of "Fuck the Police."
Oh, cool.
So it's cool, yeah. And Double Pity is is saying his wife's listening is he's always joking about playing that song about his wife.
Oh, is his wife a cop?
Yeah.
See, that's what I mean. Like, I have like some family members who or I have a cousin who's a cop, so I'm not trying to be political on it. Like I said, I love that track for the flow and the beat alone, and that's my whole thing with that.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a cousin who's a cop, and I've played that actually because of some of the work I do. I come into contact with police, and I was out DJing, and I was playing that, and a police officer who I happen to know sort of walked in and just gave me a bit of a funny look, but then smiled and then walked off.
Yeah, like I mean, like I'm not at the same time trying to not acknowledge the truth behind what they're rapping about. Like that's very real, and that's something that I haven't really had to experience. So I'm just saying I'm not I just wanted to play the track. I'm not a part of that.
Yeah. I mean,
Really.
it's interesting on two fronts. I had Mark Brand last night on the mental health show, Part of My Journey, and he picked out the Jay Dilla The Shining box set.
Nice.
It's harder on that show because I only get to pick out 3, and technically that's like 5 records. But then he was also talking about how in hip hop, obviously, you have to keep it real, and obviously it may not be your experience or my experience or the lives that we've lived, but the people who are rapping about it have gone through it, and have lived that, and that's why hip hop is important.
Yep. And that alone, like I think as hip hop fans alone, like we fully support what they're going through, and
last night's show was really inspiring. So not just you, but obviously anyone who's tuning in, make sure you go and check that out. It's on the Mixcloud and it will be on Twitch for a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's a really inspiring guy, Mark Brown. Lots of really interesting things.
Is it going to be up on YouTube soon?
It's on Twitch at the moment. It'll be on Twitch for a couple of weeks on my channel, and then it will be on YouTube. And the audio is on Mixcloud already. So if you like podcasts or listening to that, you can do that as well. But no, he's a cool guy. Right, I think that was 2 for number 6, but what's number 7? What have you got for number 7?
Number 7, I actually just spilled coffee on the sleeve of this at the beginning.
That was just before we started, wasn't it?
Yeah, my fat ass just knocked a cup of coffee over on it. So, I got exactly. So it's a reggae track. I just want to end it off on this, just because I love this track alone. I know Sean Paul sampled it, and 2 of my high school friends were in one of his music videos that they shot in Toronto years ago.
Wow.
Okay. So this is Althea and Donna, Uptown Rankin. It's on.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the Warner Brothers label. And I'll tell you a funny story with this. This is something I picked up maybe a couple of years back. And there's this guy that deals records like Reggae 45s. I guess it was on Facebook Marketplace. And I just asked him a simple question. I said, because there are several versions of this single. I said, is the one that you have the version with the synthesizer at the beginning? And he got so pissed off. He's like, no, it's the synthesizers weren't. This came out in the 70s. They weren't around back then. I'm like, do you know what you're talking about, man? And he's like, I've been dealing records since the 1980s or whatever. Don't tell me what. and then he blocked and deleted me just for asking that simple
Oh
question.
no.
So I ended up having to buy this. Like I would have paid a lot less for it because I would have just drove and pick it up. But I had to end up I ended up ordering this off of Discogs from I think it was Switzerland or somewhere, and the guy was a lot nicer to me about that.
Yeah, play it, and then I'll get you to show me the B side and see if it's the same copy that I've got, because the B side's really good as well. If it's the same copy.
Okay. All right, I'll show you it right after. Yeah. Let me just switch this over.
Yeah, some record collectors get very precious, and some sellers as well.
See me in my heels and ting. Them checks say we hip and ting. True, them no know and ting. We have them going and ting. Nah pop, no style. All strictly roots. Nah pop, no style. All strictly roots. See me on the road and you not call out to me. True, you see me in my pants and ting. See me in my altar back. Say me give you heart attack. Give me little bass, make me wind up my waist. Uptown top ranking. See me in my Benz and ting. Dolly true Constant Spring. Them checks say we come from Cosmo Spring, but the true them no know and ting. Them no know say we top ranking. Uptown top ranking. Should I see me and the ranking dread? Check out we jamming and ting. Love is all I bring. In a my khaki suit and ting. Nah pop, no style. I strictly roots. Nah pop, no style. I strictly roots. Watch how we chuck it and ting. In our khaki suit and ting. Love is all I bring. In a my khaki suit and ting. Nah pop, no style. I strictly roots. Nah pop, no style. I strictly roots. The love in your heart, this a boil out for me. So you see me in my pants and ting. See me in my altar back. Say me give you heart attack. Give me little bass, make me wind out my waist. Uptown top ranking. See me from the road and you not call out to me. Do you see me in my pants and ting? See me in my altar back. Say me give you heart attack. Give me little bass, make me wind up my waist. Give me little bass, make me wind up my waist. Love is all I bring. In a my khaki suit and ting. Nah pop, no style. I strictly roots. Nah pop, no style. I strictly roots. Should I see me and the ranking dread? Check out we jamming and ting. Love is all I bring. In a my khaki suit and ting. Me nah pop, no style. That's true.
Really quick.
It's just one of those absolute timeless classic records that you can just drop at any time in any set, pretty much, or in any location, any venue, and people love it, and generally people get up and dance to that.
Yeah,
There's just something. There's
absolutely.
just something about it. I don't know. I don't know
It's
why, but it's amazing. It's an amazing track.
it's like one of those warm sounding like feel good tracks. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
I just wanted to show you really quickly. Like I was telling you earlier, how we had like a record breaking snowstorm last week.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you can
I
see it
could just
here.
about see it, but
Like this
oh, I can
is
definitely see it now. Look at
it
all that
was
snow.
it was a lot worse yesterday here, but by the time I got home, like I had to go into work, and I had to like dig my car out of the spot. There were
Wow.
cars buried in snow, and I was so tired by the time I got back home that I tried to use my key fobber on my like apartment door. I was so zonked out. I was like, why won't this open? I'm like, oh my god. I'm trying to trying to open up the the apartment door with a clicker. I'm like, there we go.
That is, yeah. We talked about this earlier. That is a lot of snow.
Yeah.
We do have snow here in the UK. It's not so much down where I live, but I know sort of up in Scotland there's a lot. But yeah, that looked crazy. Let's just have a quick look. What's on the B side of that? I just want to check if
Um
it's the same.
let me just check here. Hang on just 1 second. It's actually not them. It's someone named Mighty 2.
Yeah,
Calico's
yeah, yeah.
cute.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the same,
Yeah.
but it's like a version where if it's the same one as me, I think it is. It's like a version where he's toasting on it, and then there's little snippets of Uptown Top Ranking where they come in.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. No,
yeah, yeah,
I was gonna say like that's one of those B sides that I don't remember listening to, but as soon as you said that, I'm like, no, I have listened to that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
That
think
is
that
what
was
that
on one
is.
of our shows. Right. I don't know if you got one more. I'm going to show a couple of things, and then have you got one more track you can
I,
play or not?
I've got one more that I'm gonna
Okay,
put
let me
on.
show these things, and then we'll get you to play the last one, and then we'll go. So the first thing I'm going to show is obviously something you very kindly invited me and Zizi onto your show, and then you opened the show with this, and I had to go and buy it.
Oh yeah.
Which is, in case anyone hasn't seen it, this is amazing, and I don't have it set up to show you how it's going to work, but it's obviously it's Super Mario,
Yep.
and it comes out in that, and then you've got Duck Hunt on the SPAC, and it is a Zoetrope picture disc, which is amazing. So that's on that side, and that's on that side. And if you go to the show, I'll find the link later. But if you go to the Digging in the Crates on your channel, then obviously you can see it. You can see it working, and it's very cool because obviously Zoetropes, if anyone doesn't know, is obviously where you've got little animations going around. So there's that one, and then I haven't even opened this yet, but this is the Hey Dougie one.
Oh, what's that? What is that? Is that like a video
That's
game
the
or
Hey
something?
Dougie one. I think I told you about it, which is also a Zoetrope.
Oh, but what is Dougie? I'm not sure who that
Okay,
is.
so Dougie is a kids' TV show. He's a dog
Mhm.
that runs like a camp for kids, like the brownies or the cubs or something. I don't know if
Oh yeah.
you must have
Yep.
something
We
similar
have
over
that.
there.
Yeah.
And all the kids who go to it are different animals. So it's a children's animated cartoon show. And obviously on the inside, on one side is a zoetrope. But
Oh,
I
cool.
think I sent you the link to that, didn't I? I think
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Was that a British children's show or?
yeah, it's a British. Yeah, it's British. I don't know if they've
Hang on,
exported it.
you just reminded me of something. I've owned this record for years, and it's apparently it's a kids show from England in the 70s,
Okay,
and I
try
don't know
me.
what it is. My sister bought it for me because she thought it looked funny. Let me just grab it here. I'm sure someone there might know.
Yeah. Well, I was a kid in the 70s, so I might know it. But yeah, big shout out to people who tuned in. DJ Blush, great to see you, and Double P, and Benny Goggs, and we had DJ Bill, and we had Andy Smith in earlier, and everyone for tuning in, and Decal, who's working and lurking. Next week, I've got Jawa Jones on the show, which should be really interesting. And then we'll come back to some other stuff that's going on
Oh,
this week.
I love Jawa. She was on that all girls episode too because she was hosting. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
you know that she hosts different series for women. So she was a huge advocate for that too, and she kind of
Yeah.
helped me put the thing together as well too. She's an amazing, and I'm excited for that episode.
Yeah, it should be good. She because we didn't have for the first 45 day, I'd sort of, it was early days, I sort of put a thing out, but obviously didn't manage to reach everyone, so we didn't have any women on. And then I got chatting to DJ Honey from Singapore, who mentioned this, and then she said, "Oh, check out all these other female DJs." And then obviously, met Jawa, and then Jawa did the Juanita thing, and then they've been on 45 Kings, and we did the 45 Queens 12-hour show, and then we did another one, and she's been on my radio show. So yeah, it's been great, and that's another thing that I've loved being able to do, and sort of reach out and get as many DJs as possible, men, women, from all backgrounds, all nationalities, and it's great. So yeah, that should be a good show. But I'm interested to see what this is now. Actually, see if it is one of my
So this
childhood
is
shows.
it's called the Wombles.
Oh, of course, the Wombly. Yeah,
I don't know who they are. Like we've
the
never had
Wombles.
this.
Yeah, they
We've
were
never had this
massive.
show.
They
There
were
was
they were huge in the UK.
Yeah, that was I like we did have some British shows when I was a kid growing up. And there was another show I remember watching that my parents used to watch because I think it was about a Guyanese family in London called Desmond. And it was like I always
Desmond. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
always thought of that as like the Guyanese Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh,
Like to me, I just kind of like thought it was similar to the same sort of
that's
thing.
not quite. That's not. It's not
Not
quite.
no, not at
Okay,
all.
so let's break this down a little bit. So yeah, the Wombles were of Wimbledon Common. So Wimbledon, a common is like a big green area,
Okay.
like a massive park, or well, not quite a park, but like a sort of massive thing in and Wimbledon's in London. They were the Wombles, so they were like whatever Wombles are. I don't know, not badgers, but something like that. So Desmond's, yeah, because recently Happy People Records have released the theme tune for Desmond's, which I've got, and I've been playing quite recently on my streams, including a little video clip of the introduction. And
Right.
Desmond was a barber in Brixton.
That's right.
And it was about no Peckham, I think it was Peckham, and it was basically about his life as a hairdresser. From what I remember, I don't remember. I remember watching it, but I need to watch it again. But
I think they were from Guyana because they like I remember
they may
seeing
well have been,
the
yeah.
thing where they come off the boat in the beginning. I haven't watched this show since I was like 8, and that would have been in like 1992 or something. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I just
Let me
faintly remember that show, and I remember like my dad loved the show. He thought it was funny. So, but
I
you're right.
don't
I probably had nothing. It wasn't like about a guy that uh that moved to a rich family or anything like that. It had very different in that context.
It was very different. Yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to think if I can get. I can't easily get it up.
Because
I
it was
don't
like a
think.
calypso song that there was a theme, right? It was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I can't find it. It's on one. It's on a couple of my streams. I'm going to be doing some editing of some of my streams, and putting that up. But yeah, because I pair it in with the video from there. So yeah. Well, those are sort of the kids shows. Some of the kids shows we used to watch. Cool. So what's the bonus track you've picked out for this evening?
All right. I'm gonna see the thing with me and 45s is or 7 inches is I'm more of a 12-inch collector than I am 45s, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But I do have quite a bit of 45s, and the first one I bought was this particular track. Let me grab it. Hang on just 1 second. I'll throw it on here for you. This would have been the first 45 that I didn't inherit, but I actually purchased myself at
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
store
That's a
years
good one to play.
Yep.
And while you're setting that up, I'll just sort of let people know. So yeah. So next Tuesday night, 8 o'clock UK time, we've got Joa Jones, and then tomorrow night it's the Sunday Get Down and Ragnar's birthday. So I'm DJing as part of that. So that's 6:45 UK time tomorrow, and then we're back with coffee and donuts on Saturday morning and Ace of Raids. So yeah, cool. Let's hear this, Sean.
All right, so this is the Silvers. It's kind of they were like the Jackson 5 in the 70s. And I bought this because, like I said, back then I just bought records that I heard in hip hop samples or that were sampled in hip hop songs. And this
Okay.
sampled on Mighty Healthy by Ghostface. So here we go. It's
Nice.
Silver's Wish That I Could Talk to You. It's a good soul song.
Into my life there comes a change that makes me feel like crying. I played on your love, and when you left, girl, I just felt like dying.
I wish that I can talk to you, baby, so that I can let you know. I wish that I can talk to you, baby, so that I can let you know where I stand.
I'm sorry I said that I wouldn't let you tie me down. But now that you're gone, girl, I find it much too hard for me to carry on.
I wish that I can talk to you, baby, so that I can let you know. I wish that I can talk to you, baby, so that I can let you know. Oh, if only I can hear your voice so sweet and clear, it would ease my lonely state of mind. Somehow I've got to get in touch with you to let you know.
That my love is true. I only wish I knew just where to find you. I realize, that time has turned the tide and I'm unsatisfied.
I wish that I could talk to you, baby, so that I can let you know. I wish that I could talk to you, baby, so that I can let you know. There's no hidden plan. Wish that I could talk to you, baby, so that I can let you know.
So it's one of those tracks that I could picture like L. Michaels Affair or somebody kind of covering, because I love that era of soul from the early 70s.
It's a great track, and I think Mr. Bongo have reissued some of the Silvers tracks recently. Mr. Bongo is a record label in the UK, and yeah, there's a couple on there that are great. I can't remember the names of them now, but yeah, it's just soul and it's just amazing music.
Yeah, it's just butter. It's just smooth as fuck. And yeah, I love that era. I love it. It just like with music, I always like envision like movie scenes and stuff like that, and that just feels like very like blaxploitation. Like I could really picture like a really badass cinema scene happening in that, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe something completely different. Like
it's nice sort of bookend, isn't it? Because the first one you said was like the sort of start of a blaxploitation film.
Yes. Yep.
And then obviously the last one that. So yes, nice bookending of that. Gonna say hi to Chris International, who's been on the show. Big up, and yeah, thanks very much. I'm just going to set the raid. As we've been talking about hip hop, I think Morse Code is playing some hip hop at the moment. So we'll set the raid. We'll say goodbyes, and then if you hang on there for a minute, we'll have a quick chat afterwards. But yeah, that raid's going. Okay. Sean, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Really interesting stuff. Really great, interesting talking to you, and amazing selections. You know, I think you squeezed in 9. Maybe in the end, 9. And no, it's cool. It's great. It's not quite as many as Mr. Lob just kept going. It's like another one.
I'll say, like, I love when they keep going, because I think it's hilarious to me. Like,
yeah,
I'm always just like, it's Criztoz supposed to be pissed that like no one's doing 7s, but I know you're not.
It
I just
doesn't.
thought it was funny.
I'm not precious. It's all fun. And the thing with Mr. Lob is it was very early morning for him, so I think I was drinking the beers, but you know I need to catch him on an evening when he's evening, because he's funny when he's had a couple of beers and he's.
That was a great episode, by the way. Like I was watching that last week, and the selections that he chose were so dope.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and you know I think it's the 45 Kings, you know, has set me along this path. You know, I mean, I sort of into 45s before, but you know, certainly the 45 Kings has sort of helped me. But yeah, thank you guys. Big up to Double P, big up to Decal, big up DJ Blush. Great to see you all. And Sean, thank you once again. You know, thank you again for inviting me and Zizi onto the show and making the connection. And you know, here we are.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you to everybody too for tuning in, and what you do is really great. Like I said, man, I really appreciate what you do for the community, music community, the hip hop community, DJing community. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
I appreciate that. Thanks very much. Right, take care, and I'll just end the broadcast, and yeah, we'll speak in a minute.
Awesome.